Hey guys, and welcome to your second video on solving systems of inequalities. And I've got a special guest here to read us our learning targets.
I can solve a system of inequalities by graphing, and I can solve a system of inequalities using graphing technology.
I'm so proud of him. So I want to just remind you that when we're talking about a system of equations, we're talking about graphing lines. So these are equations graphed at the same time, and we're looking for the intersection of two equations. But when we're dealing with systems of inequalities, I want to remind you that this is two or more inequalities graphed at the same time, so we're looking for the intersection of the shaded regions. The solution to a system is the intersection of the graphs. We left off here with example 4C. We're going to take these inequalities, and we notice that they are already in slope-intercept form. Y is alone here, Y is alone here. We're ready to go ahead and graph on the calculator, and we're going to sketch onto our papers. So here I'm starting with a calculator where I've cleared the RAM, and I'm going to start by running the app. So I'm going to push the apps button, and I'm going to run the app inequals. We looked at this yesterday. This is a second look. So we're going to choose the inequals app, and then press any key to continue. And this takes us to the y equals screen, and you'll see here now we have choices to change the equal sign to an inequality symbol. Well, our first inequality is a less than, so I'm going to use the alpha button and then the window button to choose this less than symbol. Alpha, window, and then right arrow, and I'm going to type in the X. Arrow down, highlight the equal sign, and these choices pop up again. The second inequality uses a greater than symbol, so I'm going to use the trace button for that. Alpha, trace, right arrow, X plus 1. And now I should be ready to graph. I'm going to push the graph button, and we see here the two inequalities. You may notice that it's difficult to tell if these are actually intersecting. It may be hard to see on your window view, so I'm going to push window. And I did this yesterday. I just cut off part of the top and the bottom of the graph by changing the y minimum and y maximum to be smaller numbers. So I'm going from -3 to +3. Now go back to the graph, and we see here, okay, yeah, that's pretty clear. I don't see an intersection. So if we push alpha shades and we tell the calculator to, hey, show me the intersection by choosing number 1, it will graph it here, and whatever ends up graphed is the intersection. And yeah, there's a blank graph here, so that tells me there is no intersection. This is a case that we can say that there is no solution. So what we see here, I've sketched the graph, but I've indicated there is not a solution. So you can indicate that with the empty set, this symbol here, or by saying that there is no solution because there was no intersecting shaded region. Example 4D also shows two inequalities that are already in slope-intercept form, so we're ready to go straight to the graphing calculator. Again, I began by clearing the RAM, 2nd plus 712. And I'm going to push the apps button and turn on the inequals app, and then touch a button to continue. It brings me here to my y equals screen with choices of inequalities. Our first inequality uses the greater than or equal to symbol, so that is going to be alpha graph. So we touch alpha graph, it changes our symbol there. Right arrow, and I'm going to type in the -3x minus 1. Remember, the negative is from the bottom row. Our x is beside the alpha key, and we're going to type in -3x minus 1. Arrow down, highlight the equal sign. Now we want a less than symbol. That less than symbol is right above window, so touch alpha window, right arrow, and type in x plus 2. Let's push graph, and we'll see here our two inequalities. Notice one is a dotted line, the other is solid. And we want to push alpha shades, choose intersection, and this will show us the true solution set to the system of inequalities. So all the points that fall in this shaded region are part of the solution set to this system of inequalities. Take a moment, graph this on your papers. So here we see the sketched solution of the system of inequalities. For example 4E, again we see that we've got our y all alone in the first inequality. The second inequality is a little different. It does not have a y at all. If it doesn't have a y, we do need to solve for x, and this is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to have to teach you how we can input this into the calculator. So let's take a look at our graphing calculator. Go ahead and turn it on, clear your RAM to get started. Okay, we're going to start by pushing apps, go to n equals, touch a button to continue, and we're ready to start typing in our inequalities. Our first one's easy. It's y is greater than -2. The greater than button is here. I will touch alpha trace, greater than -2. But the second inequality doesn't have a y. All of these choices have a y. You can't just type in one that starts with an x in this menu. So what are we going to do? I want you to look closely at the top left-hand corner here. You'll see an x equals. You're going to highlight that. So scroll up, up, arrow up, hit enter on the x equals, and now all of these have x's. This is called the x equals menu. We're going to type in a less than symbol here by touching alpha window. X is less than 1. Now we have these two inequalities typed in. Do you notice how the y equals is dark? If it's dark, that means that there's something typed in the y equals menu. Hit enter on the y equals menu, go back to it. Notice that the x equals menu is dark. So that's telling me there's something in the y equals menu. There's something also in the x equals menu. And that's good because those are the two inequalities we need to graph. Now touch graph and you'll see the first inequality and the second inequality. And we, of course, are looking for the intersection, so I will touch alpha shades, and we're going to choose the inequality intersection. Hit enter, and here comes the intersection of the system. So the solution set includes all the points that fall in this shaded region of the graph. Pause the video, take a moment to sketch this on your papers. So here you'll see my sketch of the system of inequalities. One question, would the origin be included in the solution set? Would the point 0, 0 be included in the solution set for this system of inequalities? What do you think? Well, where is 0, 0 located? 0, 0 is the origin. It is located right here. Is it in the shaded region? Yes, it is. Therefore, I would say yes, 0, 0 is in the solution set of the system of inequalities. That is an example of a type of question that you could see in a multiple choice type format. Is a specific ordered pair in the system? What we're looking at in example 5 is a linear and absolute value system. Absolute value graphs take a different shape than a regular line. So we're going to take a look at how we're going to graph these linear and absolute value systems and find the solution set. So begin by putting the equations in slope-intercept form. Well, if we have the y all alone, we are already ready to graph. So I notice here y is alone. I notice here that y is alone. I'm ready to input these into my graphing calculator. So get your calculator ready to roll. Okay, so we're again going to run our app in equals, touch a number to continue, and we're going to input these two inequalities. So my first inequality statement says y is less than or equal to 3. That's going to be this button, which is right above zoom, alpha, zoom, right arrow, type the 3. My second inequality is absolute value, but let's start with the fact that it says greater than or equal to. So highlight it. We're going to choose alpha graph. Right arrow. And how do I get those absolute value bars on the screen? We used them first semester. You may remember, but if you forgot, you're going to go to the math menu. I want to remind you that if there's something on the graphing calculator that you cannot remember where to find it, you may find it under math. There's a lot of goodies under there. So push the math button and arrow over to the right one time. The first choice here says ABS. That stands for absolute value. Enter to choose it. Absolute value, and whatever goes inside of those absolute value bars, you're just going to type right here after these parentheses. X minus 1, and it's important that you close the parentheses. So I want to zoom in on that so you can see y is greater than or equal to abs x minus 1. And how did I get abs on the screen? Math over to the right, and it was the first choice. Okay, push the graph button. There we see the line, and there's the absolute value graph. We're looking for the solution to the system. The solution to a system, again, I'll remind you, is the intersection of the graph. So I'm going to go to alpha shades, and I'm going to choose the intersection, number 1. So the intersection this time is just that little triangle. Just the part in between the V and the line. Sketch this now on your papers. So here you can see my sketch of the solution to this system of a line and an absolute value inequality. So a linear absolute value system. Now clearly, this isn't the only type of mixed up system that you could graph. You could graph a parabola, which comes from a quadratic function, with a line. You could graph a cubic function with a line. Just any type of function you could graph together and find the intersection of their shaded regions. Okay, we're ready to record the next example, example 5B. And again, I noticed that the Y is all alone in both of these. I've got a Y alone here, a Y alone here. We're ready to go ahead and graph. We need to start by running our app. So we're going to push apps, and we're going to go to N equals. I've got my little assistant here helping me. Press any key to continue. And where it says equals, we're going to change that first one to a, let's see, what are we going to change it to? A greater than symbol. So the greater than symbol is right here above trace. So push alpha trace, right arrow, and we're going to type x minus 2.
Hey.
Arrow down, highlight on the equal sign. This time we want the greater than or equal to symbol. That one is right above graph. So we're going to touch alpha graph, right arrow, and I've got somebody that wants to be in the video. Say hi.
Hi.
How are you, students? Say, how are you, students?
How are you?
Okay.
I hope you're doing good.
Okay. All right, so back to our graph. We're going to have to get absolute value bars again. So where do we go to get absolute value? We go to the math button and go over to num and choose abs. Type in x plus 2 and close the parentheses. Push the graph button, and we should see, yes, it graphs right here before our eyes.
I was pointing at
Oh, this one looks different. Okay, we need to find this intersection. Let's push alpha shades, choose number 1, inequality intersection, and this will reveal what the solution to this system of inequalities is. So whatever's shaded now is the true solution. And it looks like it's everything inside of that absolute value function, everything inside of the V. So pause, sketch. So here's the sketch of my solution to this system of inequalities. There's one more example here, example 5C, and I want you to just pause the video now and work this one at your seat, and let's see if you can get it right. So here is my solution, compare it with yours. Read those learning targets one more time.